Let's talk about dreams. Dreams are incredibly interesting. We talk about them individually, and we talk about them with our clients. We talk about them with our therapists. What are your thoughts about them?
Well, some people don't like to talk about dreams.
That's true.
They say dreams are stupid. What's the point of doing that? Um, and so we disagree. We think that, and as a matter of fact, the disavowal of dreams can, like, if nothing else, it's like an interesting pot of associations and things that you could get something out of. So guess probably the kinds of folks that are poo-pooing dreams.
Yes. Which side of the spectrum might they fall to say nothing to see here?
Nothing to see here.
And as a matter of fact, for any of you, a lot of people sometimes can't believe that they even dream because they have no memory of them. But one of the things we can say for sure, there's a lot we can't say for sure about dreams because there's so many different theories around them. But what we can say is you do dream. Everybody dreams. Whether you remember it or not, you're dreaming every night because we do know it's an essential part of our memory process.
That's right. It's when memory reconsolidation happens. I always think of, what was that play? Not that play, but that animation movie that had all the characters in it with the feelings.
Oh my gosh, we were just talking about that.
All right, somebody's going to put it in the comments.
Somebody's going to put it in the comments.
but the one of the parts that stuck out to me so much in that was when he was sleeping, right? The little guy came out and was sweeping.
Inside out.
Inside out.
Inside out.
Good. And he was sweeping, and what he was doing was sorting, like reconsolidating. What is important? What do I need to hold on to? And here's something interesting, too, from a neuroscience standpoint. It's like, how do we know when something is labeled important or not? Because we get 100 bazillion inputs a day. And so there's got to be some mechanism of what to store and what not to store that then later would get cleaned up by the dream. But typically what it's going to be is a little shot of energy. So that's why you'll remember something if it's a surprise, or if you're moved, or if there's a lot of novelty. Those are the things that can get popped into long-term memory that then when we fall asleep, and again, it's a jumble of what's going to end up landing and what's not going to land. And so literally, it's like a little sweeper, and I'm just imagining the inside out guy that cleans it up. And in the morning, you can just think about it. It's like it's actually extremely effective. But that we're talking about memory reconsolidation, but not necessarily about dreams yet.
Well, I love that image of the sweeping. I wish that was happening, in your house in the middle of the night, but it's happening in your brain. I love that idea that somebody's in there cleaning it up, sorting it out, sorting your closets. So there's this process, and you bring up the emotions. Dreams are extremely emotional. Most of our dreams are a way for our body to digest emotions and all these experiences we've had. And what's the relevance, right? That is part of the memory consolidation process that we're talking about.
Exactly. And if you get real nerdy and do a deep dive into it, not like we have, because of course we have, but that when you really, really get into the science, there's a zillion different theories about it. And, going all the way back to Freud and, this wish fulfillment and things like that. And there's been a pendulum. So for a while, dreams were very important, and then they're nothing but just kind of trash as you're cleaning up, you know what I mean? Not anything to pay attention to, not meaningful in your day-to-day life. But I have the sense that, like, let's just say for a minute, worst case scenario, dreams are just like this little cloud of dust during the sweeping. And it's not really that meaningful. Well, when we begin to, if you just think about, like, if you look at clouds and you form meaning, right? Like, oh, look, it's a tiger, what's the tiger doing? Oh, the tiger's chasing well, it's the same thing. So worst case scenario, even if our dreams are totally random, neurological belches.
Which we don't believe, but
no, that isn't what we believe. But I'm saying
way over there in the blue, and that's what you're thinking.
But I'm saying, even if that's the case, how we relate in the morning to the dream, how we express the dream, the meaning we make of the dream is still fascinating. So there's no way you're going to be able to convince us that there's not a way to learn about yourself and deepen and really tap into some unconscious process. No matter what exactly is generating the images and thoughts and feelings associated in the dream, because it's the meaning making that I find so fascinating and so useful. What are your thoughts about that?
And I completely agree. And in both working with my own dreams as well as my clients' dreams, it is one of the most powerful elements to explore those things. If you think about dreams being also the way that our mind is taking in some of the unconscious things that we're experiencing during the day, right? And then we're asleep, our defenses are down, and images come, right? Dreams aren't literal. They're not, I had a really hard meeting today, and I'm going to go home. I mean, sometimes that happens, but more than likely, you're not going to have a dream about that exact meeting or something that went wrong or was embarrassing. But the power of that association, the overwhelming emotion that you might have had during that day, could come out in symbols, in activities that are happening in your brain. And this power of association is powerful, right?
That's right. And I want to begin to associate to some of these symbols and talk about that a little bit more. But also just some just other data is that it does seem like that dreams will often have there'll be a negative tone to them. That isn't atypical. So kind of scary and one of the theories was that we are rehearsing in the night things that make us scared and basically trying to get body experience of handling scary things. And there was a rat. This one, it's been a long time. I'm not going to be able to even cite it. But what it was they interrupted rat REM sleep. And one of the things they found very quickly was that rats naturally do things like run along your baseboard, they stay in the corners. They don't just frolic around the middle of your living room. They're angular. You know what I mean? They're and that's because that's safer for them. But when you mess with their REM sleep, then they end up doing things like playing with the ball in the middle of they lose some of their natural defensive capabilities, which is really just interesting. And that was one idea of okay, we dream I dream that my stroller runs into the road and a car hits it is adaptive to me to hold the hell onto the stroller. So that's just another more kind of concrete. For those of you that like the concrete, it's one theory is that we really are practicing the things that are actually dangerous in our lives. And by doing it, it helps us be vigilant during the day about the right things.
So I'm fascinated, and I'm going to have to look up that rat study. So what you're saying is when they interrupted that, so most of our dreaming, we dream during non-REM sleep, but most of our really intense, active, emotional dreaming is happening during REM.
Yes.
And so studies are we keep people from having REM sleep, and what happens when you're deprived of that process? That's the outcome of that study. And there's lots of human studies on this as well. But so what you're saying is when you interrupt that sleep for rats, they literally during their waking day will have more just dangerous activity, but they're more playful and out and not in their natural instinct to protect themselves, which they actually need to do.
Yeah, I don't mean that it makes them more playful. I think when we lose REM sleep, we...
No, we're not playful.
I'm just saying that they did things that they shouldn't have done, with the idea being that this rehearses for us a dangerous situation, which is also explains some of why that it is typically harder feelings in dreams.
Yeah, that's so.
Hey, do you want to share one or one that you've heard about, or maybe how you work with clients with it?
Yeah, I think when I've had clients where they come in and they have a dream like maybe about their third grade teacher. They have not thought about their third grade teacher in years and years and years. And when you work with dreams, you do power of associations, right? You kind of, what are the themes that are happening for them in the daytime? What's going on? What are they experiencing? And it's so interesting when they say, I have no idea why that third grade teacher would be coming into it. And actually, I'm thinking about this because this was an individual that had a lot of shame about an experience that they had had with their family members. And they were kind of a little bit processing that way before.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
You're talking about a client.
Yeah, I just realized that as I was talking.
I almost stopped you, but
yeah.
I thought you
Sorry,
would
Jack.
recover.
No. You're right. It was really when you said something like talking about a client, but I'm like, no.
I meant like how do you work with clients with dreams?
Okay. Yeah, I was like, oh wait, this was a really interesting
The ones
dream.
that I want to tell, the dreams that I want to tell, I can't tell.
Yeah. Well, I was going to bring up.
They're really personal.
They are. So that's a good thing to talk about. One of the things I thought I would talk about. Well, wait. I wanted to talk about. I think I do want to bring in the one lucid dream that you rarely have them with my mom. When after her death, I was thinking I might talk about like my memory of being able to engage with her for the first time and consciously wanting to stay there, and how healing that was for me in my waking moments after I really it's a memory but that's kind of down the road. But but I'd like an opportunity to mention it because it was pretty powerful. Okay. So how do we get back in? Sorry, Jack. And Ashley.
Well, I had just asked you, but I'd be maybe like I have ideas about working with dreams with clients.
I didn't realize what you meant. I thought you said, do you have any particular dreams?
I did, because it'll get more interesting if we get dreams in. But.
Yeah. Oh, I have a thing. Just ask me that question, so it will be, and I'll just do my personal, repetitive dream when I was waiting tables. No.
That's fine.
Just so that we keep with the rhythm of where we stopped.
Okay.
And then we can say, how do we work with it? But that was just kind of a daily way of working through stress, but they also have more meaning of associations. Okay.
So does a dream come to mind for you?
Well, when I waited tables for years and years and years, and a lot of wait staff will relate to this, I would always have dreams about being in the weeds. Like I could see the table and realize I had forgotten them and try to go back, and I'm just too busy and I can't do it. I'm in the weeds, which is an expression for waiting tables when you just can't see above and you can't handle everything. And that was really, really repetitive for me. And I think it was my way of working out the stress of the whole experience of constantly being in that experience when you wait tables, of being constantly behind and always having to be really vigilant. What about you?
Well, it's funny, as I was thinking about dreams to share, I'm like, oh, I can't share that one. Oh, I can't share that one.
Oh,
because I will share one, but like some big life events have been literally pivoted for me on dreams and on the sense that I got of like a deeper wholeness or a deeper meaning. Like my psyche, was trying to tell me something, and it generated these ways that I could hear it. I have been in my life a prolific dreamer, a lot related to, just my own personal trauma history. And I've used my dreams over time as part of my healing. And this is part of why we're bringing it up, is we want you to learn how to use your dreams to be part of your healing. So this is just a real simple, this was in graduate school where we had to look at dreams, and it was using Gestalt. And basically it was a dumb dream. It was they're all dumb, right? I mean, they're hard to tell because we're confabulating, trying to make it make sense. But basically there's these two buildings next to each other, and the drama was there was a rope between the two buildings, and I'm crossing this rope. Okay, not that interesting. Doesn't sound that fun, right? Or, I mean, it actually could, like, what are the two buildings and what am I deciding between and what's happening? But then we did the exercise where you become each of the characters, right? And so the first building, I'm the building and I'm holding it up and I'm holding this string really tight because somebody's about to get on it, right? So then now I'm out on the tight thing and I'm the string. And so the string is trying so hard to hold on because somebody's leaning on it and it's doing its very best to hold this person up. And then I'm the other building, and the building is like about to let go because it's too heavy. And so basically what ended up happening is no matter what position I took, it was the same theme that I was working on, which was that the general gist of it was how I was, like, if you think of it, every single one of those, I'm taking responsibility, like, for the life of whoever. Mm-hmm. And I was, that knocked me on the head about how obvious that was. And then once I started feeling that, I couldn't take a position in the dream, because there was other little details or whatever, where the exact same thing didn't happen, where it was like, if I don't hold this person up, or if I can't hold this rope, somebody's going to die. And so that it goes right back into my early life of feeling, not necessarily literally, but feeling like that I was holding everything together and taking it so seriously and being so scared that I wouldn't be able to do it. So that's just a way of, like, getting right around all of our thinking and stuff like that. But boring dream, but it was what we did with it that was actually made it interesting.
Well, to the point before, is the dream actually doing that, or is your working through the dream giving you this avenue? But what is very, very relevant as you talk about it is the intensity of the feeling that you were having describing it that was coming out in your dream, and then your processing of it allowed you to have that really powerful association with what was happening, and then to be able to talk about it in your life. Like, how are you holding those feelings right now? How are those coming up in the current state for you, both in your history and the present tense?
That's right. And that's so when I always think of it, when a client or anyone, just like I did, brings you a dream, it's such an act of trust because they don't really know exactly what they're revealing. And so the interpersonal part of sharing a dream is really, really, really important. And then, for me, it's like we work with it in so many ways, but part of it is, like, that's one exercise is, okay, be the different characters in your dream and just see, that's one. And everything is you. So if there's a baby in the dream, that baby is you. As a way of just trying it on. Sometimes I'll say, like, okay, if I was from, they'll say Jan showed up and Mark did this. And so if I am an alien from another planet, what is a Jan? Oh, a Jan is somebody who always tells you what to do, or whatever. And what is a Mark? A Mark is, so basically that we're getting to a little bit of the deepers of what these things symbolize because they're symbolizations. And that has been really, really, really effective because I don't want to assume what I think of Jan is what or even a snake, right? Like they're dreaming of a snake. I don't know to them what their relationship is with that snake, how and in that dream what that dream meant to them about the snake. So rather than saying the snake means something, I'm much more about, like, tell me about the snake. What was the snake's motive? What was it working? What was it doing? How do you feel? Like you were saying, what are your feelings towards the snake? I wonder why a snake. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then just as we wonder and we make meaning, the idea is we're not in a court of law. We're not trying to say this is right and this is the only way. We're working to just tie back into the psyche, that kind of communication that is less literal, less concrete, less, logical, basically.
And the power of association, and that's the process of being able to get into your unconscious, because it's not, when you're imagining being the snake or being Jan, there's this power of association that you might not even know that you're making, right? Like, this is somebody that's always in control. It's like you're not, and so now you're opening up to that experience about control or being out of control or needing somebody that has control. So the window into your unconscious can be so powerful, but you have to be open to it, right? You have to be open to saying, let's slow down. If somebody, and by the way, if somebody says I had a dream and they kind of laugh and go forward, it's worthy to say, hey, slow down and tell me about that, right? Because if they're bringing it up and they're mentioning it, it's carrying with them for some reason, some weight, even if they don't know. And oftentimes we don't know in our own dreams, like they're chaotic, they're crazy. You called them dumb. I think your meaning is they're chaotic. Right? They're not sensical many of the time. Sometimes you get a whole storyline when you stop to think about it, but they can be very chaotic, but full of symbols and full of meaning. And when you slow it down, the story that can arise from that is so powerful.
So another technique is that we, like you're saying about slowing it down, is like really slowing it down because because we're confabulating to try to make sense. Another one came to my mind that I was actually in a dream conference, and this was when, and it's part of group therapy, and it was a 2-day thing, and I had a dream. I was so happy. I was like, I delivered one for you, and the dream was that I was in a store, and it was a mom and pop store owned by and there was a male behind the counter, but he was blind. And so I'm looking around and all these people are, he's just somehow checking people out, but he's blind. And so I get something and I'm aware that I could steal from him, right? And so it was bread, I think. And so I hand him the bread, but maybe I had kept some bread for myself. And then so he put his hand on it and told me the price. And I leave, and I feel horrible, really, really horrible. But then I see other people going and doing it. Like everyone knew that I had done this, and he knew that I had done this. Like maybe he wasn't totally blind, and it was a gift, and he was giving me something. So then, in telling the dream, so that's the dream, roughly. So then in telling the dream, I got so emotional talking about it because I had so much shame about stealing from this mom and pop store. And why did I do that? And part of what came out was the dream was generated by the conference. And so I'm showing up at this store and I'm supposed to be purchasing this one thing, bread or whatever, but I really want a little extra bread for myself. So I was having the feeling that like I was getting therapy. It was therapeutic for me, some of what was happening. I was like feeling cared for and loved and responded to. But it felt like, but we're in a conference. That's not supposed to be happening, so I'm stealing it.
You're in training. You were training
other people. For other people. So I think what came out in the dream was this notion that like if I was going to get first of all, if I was going to get something, I'd have to steal it. And yet the conclusion, the climax of the dream was, no, you didn't have to steal it. I'm bringing my internal working model that if I want something, I'm going to be sneaky and get it because I don't trust that it's going to come to me directly. But in this new store and in this new thing, everybody knows exactly. It's like, oh, that's Sue's. Look at Sue trying to steal that bread. That's so. It's my stuff was just right there. So it was a really sweet dream.
Well, the thing about that is in the uncensored part of Therapist Uncensored, those that have been listening for a while and know this part of you that kind of really does feel sheepish about taking too much, having too much. It's a really constant theme of just like you being able to like, I want this, I'm going to take this, I'm going to take the time for me at this conference, right?
Right.
And that's a real struggle for you. And
but
so, And so this is to use you for our listeners out there in this therapeutic way this is the beauty of really taking time to go in and go slow in that dream, because it really, as you're talking about it and as you're replaying the dream, you're in the body experience of it. You could probably hear that as you were listening to Sue tell the dream, and that she's having the emotional experience. She's just not saying, I tend to struggle with this. Can you help me? Mm-mm. She's in the process of feeling those feelings, yet now in a really safe room talking about it. So now we have the pairing, right? When we're talking about updating your working model, that you can steal the bread because this man knew you were taking it and wanted you to have it. It was a gift. And so it's a way, when we talk about updating the internal working model, this is an example of being able to use a dream, and by talking about it with a friend or a therapist or somebody and making those powerful associations and going, that's okay to have that. You're shifting something. You're shifting a worldview inside you by taking the time to do that bit of work.
Totally. I mean, I can, as we're talking, I could feel if I slowed down to get that climactic moment of the, oh my God, they knew, and they're giving it to me, and they're letting me take it in the way that I have to take it, that I couldn't just go up and claim everything I needed. I could feel emotional about that now. And it even sort of ties to the first dream of like, I'm the one that has to carry everything, and I'm the one that has to hold everything. And if something goes wrong, if that rope had broken, no matter which one I was in, if I was the person on the rope, I would have fallen. If I was the rope, I would have broken. If I was right? So those kind of like uber self-sufficiency, and then if I am going to get something, I'm stealing the bread, versus having the experience, the secure experience of, oh, honey, there's bread. You go around the store and you pick whatever candy and bread you want, girl.
I love it. And you know what? That actually highlights what we'll use this one, if that's okay, to keep going in like, what are some things that you can do with dreams, right? One of them, talking about them in a really safe place, getting them out, making the powerful associations, making the connections maybe to what's going on for you in the present moment, or more deeply in your internal working model. And then I'm thinking about the building one, right? Holding on. Another way to work with dreams in therapy is to help somebody, once they identify, is to take that image and actually have a reliving of it, or a replacement of it.
Redream it. Yeah.
Redream it. So you can tell about that. We used to do it with kids, right? Like they're having a nightmare. You can retell the story after getting in touch, because when you retell a dream, you're back in touch with those feelings. But if we were to say to Sue, okay, so let's imagine there that you're holding that up, and you let go of that string. And then as Sue's telling it, she's going to feel the panic. If I let go, it's consistent with a working model of it's going to all fall apart, right? But as you let go, who on the other side is going to catch it? What do you imagine? Who is there for you to actually catch that? And how could I help you hold it if I'm the therapist? And to have the reliving of that in a way that is retelling, and you can feel the support around you, right? Because our internal working model is often, it's about the past. It's not about the present. Mm-hmm. And if you look around, and what resources do you have for you inside you or somebody next to you? And so you can have your body have a revisiting of that really deep, emotional, implicit memory that might be coming up. And we're going to make it more explicit by talking about it, for one. So we're moving it in our mind to a more explicit memory idea. And now we're going to have somebody help us. So now we have this power of association that says somebody is there. I'm not holding the whole weight by myself.
Right. Well, and it makes me think of David Elliott's work about using imagination to create security. So it's so interesting. You're right. Because like, if I were to revisit that dream, which was not, I perceived, that was not a trauma dream, but it's a good one for this example about like, but my stuff was all in it no matter what. So yeah, you're right. So like if I imagined a building super, who was on top of it, and he noticed, oh, hey, that doesn't look very secure. Let me, step aside. Let me put some bolts in that or whatever. You know what I mean? That like there's somebody there to help. Or let's say I got stuck in the middle of the two buildings. Right? That like my eagle sees me and swoops down, and just as
like
I'm falling, I jump on his back and we take off. The idea being, yeah, you redream it, and you can but what's very important is that you want to end it secure. So that dream, that first dream, was not in a secure place. It was like I was in distress, no matter which place. So you keep working with it until it's like, yeah, okay, so the eagle's good, and then now I'm going to go across the two buildings, and I'm not going to be hand over hand. I'm going to like be on a unicycle or something, because I know I can do this so well. I have such capability now, and I've have the training. Oh, hey, and there's a net underneath me, so it doesn't really matter. And people are cheering, and like we can just transform the story to something playful, fun. So what security looks like always is you have a capacity inside yourself that you can feel, and that capacity isn't about you being great. It's not like because you have it all together. It's because you've been loved, and you've been able to hold on to that love through your whole life span, right? Security is never alone. It's always because we have been filled with all of the good resources, cultural resources, and earth resources, and things like that. So anyway, so if you're transforming a story from a scary story to a secure story, we want it to land where that you have capability, because that you can lean on other people, and that those people are going to be available and be delighted to help you. And that is, if you can keep hitting that note, you can daydream it. If you take one of your own dreams and daydream that ending, and be big. You're only limited by your imagination. It can be anything that becomes your secure world.
Oh, I love that. I feel like Brene Brown. Say that again. Let's unpack. So, in another process, like if you have, that would be, especially if you have a repetitive dream, like a reoccurring. So many people have reoccurring themes, right? Like what is the reoccurring theme, even if you can't unpack like the details. So sometimes, honestly, it's really hard to have as a vivacious memory of the dreams like you have that you can hold. So if you're out there going, I can't hold my dream, I wake up by 10 o'clock and coffee, I have no idea what actually happened. But do you have reoccurring themes? Because there could be this particular anxiety. Like there are, some of the most common dreams are being chased, being late, falling. If you maybe a repetitive, like you're in a car and it's out of control, and that's something that you experience, like, I'm in this car. Or maybe the theme is, I continue to find myself in a position where I feel a little out of control. So that might be a communication to you that there's something, that the fear of being out of control, or so much is out of control, if that's a theme. And so in the same vein of what you're saying, Sue, is like really taking in the out of control feeling. So maybe you can't do the whole dream, but you can really get in touch with the idea of out of control.
Yeah, even if it's just a snippet.
A snippet. I'm out of control. I'm losing control of my car every time I get in it, and it's so scary.
Okay, so then how do you transform that into a secure place?
I'm so glad you asked. So let's think of the car. So it's out of control, and you're like, okay, I'm in touch with this sense of out of control. Like, so one of the things is to really allow yourself to get in touch with the experience of it and to tolerate it, because what we often do when we're out of control is our first instinct is, let me get things under control, right? And so then we start over managing our children or our spouse, or like, and not being consciously aware of it. And so one of the things is like, what is so out of control? And do you have the resilience, if things are so chaotic around you, to say, I can handle this. I can build my agency. I can tolerate this out of control while I explore it, right? And then moving that from resilience to, is it out of control? Are there people around me? Do I have resources around me, or am I doing this all alone? Do I think I have to hold on to this position at work even though I hate it? Because everybody else is going to go to hell in the handbasket. It's like, it's retelling the sense of being out of control in a way that says, I have agency to handle it, but I also have resources around me that I don't have to be the one in control. Mm-hmm. That will it spin out if I lose my job?
Oh, that's great. And, you said something else about some people, it's harder to remember their dreams. and that there are techniques to work on that, but mainly, not to underestimate your ability to daydream. So one would be, you grab a recorder, and if you can find even a snippet, if you could grab it, because they go away so quickly. But I was also thinking in terms of, what were you saying? Just another way of working with dreams. So I've had a series of dreams of what, we were talking about some of the big themes. So water, I always think of water.
Water,
Again, it
flying.
doesn't mean this. Yeah, it doesn't mean this, but I always think of feelings and feelings flowing. I had one dream where I was in front of an aquarium and I had Shamu and everything in it, and the dang thing broke. And so all of these creatures are coming towards me, and so very scary dreams like that. But the reason I'm going back to them about how to work with them. So almost always my dreams, I was in dark water. There's a dead body there. Just really scary stuff. So everybody's gonna be wondering about me now. But no, but this is the cool part. Is then I became really interested in water and dreams, and so waking life, I would work on what is this trying to tell me, and what am I scared to see, and so my dreams begin to transform, and I might be on a canoe rather than in the water, or the water might be more clear, right? So I could see a transition over time. So I remember one specifically where I'm scuba diving, and I can breathe underwater, and the water was clear, and it still kind of had that creepy feel. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to find, but going back to this thing, I had resource. I had oxygen. I could see. I had people swimming with me, and so now we're doing the deep dive into the psyche of what all is in here. Now I'm equipped to be able to handle the scary, creature that is around the corner. So, so I guess I'm only saying that though actually as a way of if you can apply your own dream and kind of let yourself keep dreaming it, ask yourself to keep dreaming it. And then talk about it when you're awake and finish the dream. So you finish it securely. Just keep talking about it and move it into something that is more resolved. We want these things to be processed and resolved.
I like that. And by the way, for those of you with kids, and dreaming and nightmares are so common, it's a wonderful way to help kids who are waking up and having nightmares or telling you about it, to be able to say, let's go further, let's retell that. So then what happened? And then you help them as they fall back asleep tell the story in a resolved, confident way, because you're doing two different things. You're sitting there managing their nervous system, which is of course a very important part of your role as a parent, but then you're helping them reintegrate whatever anxiety that was coming up for them in a really, really positive way. And so you mentioned, ways to do that. When I said that, most of us, many of us can't remember, I know I dreamed, or maybe I don't even know I dreamed. If you start to say, I'm going to start remembering my dreams, I really want to, and you set a conscious intention, and even you catch a glimpse of something, what is fascinating is that you will, for most of us, start then remembering and recalling more of your dreams. What I'm saying is when you open up to that part of you, you're communicating. Okay, so let me put this is my theory, but I think it's supported. I don't want to say this as, I'm saying it as fact because I believe it so much, but actually
it's Anne's fact.
It's Anne's fact. It's not a fact. I can't say it. But it's because what you're saying to yourself when you say, I want my dreams, I want to remember my dreams, you're telling your body, your mind, your psyche, that you're safe enough to handle, to cope with whatever it is that it might be doing at night when my defenses are down and my unconscious is going and doing its own process. You're saying, hey, actually, I feel pretty sturdy. Bring it to me. Let me take a look. And so you're opening up and you're saying, I want to do this deeper work. And it's really interesting that you can start to manifest yourself to remember your dreams. And I've seen friends do this, oh my God, I started doing it, and now I'm remembering all these dreams. The same is true as I go periods of time where I'm not interested and I'm not doing I'm just closed off. I'm too busy in my day and I don't even think about it. I haven't remembered a dream in ages. It's a good communication to myself how tuned in I am to myself if I don't have access to any of my dreams. I think those are a period of time in my life when I'm not as aware or mindful of myself. So, some thoughts to share about maybe for you, do I want to open up to this part of myself? Can I? And can I see what's rich and underneath if I do?
I love that. I love that you're saying that, and that invitation. And in that invitation, for those of you who still might end up not remembering dreams, that the psyche, the way I think that we're talking about it, is that the psyche speaks in many languages, and dreams are just one. Mm-hmm. So beginning to pick up like loose associations, really getting more interested in, the stuff that on your peripheral vision that you don't know why you keep thinking about this thing. It's just kind of, you might look at it and it goes away, but there's something there. Mm-hmm. Your art, your creative expression, that these are all ways of kind of getting around our left, thinking Excel spreadsheet, that we're interested in, like, we are deeply connected human beings as a race, as a single race. We are deeply, deeply connected and to the world. And so there really is this communication that is always there, but I love what you're saying about sometimes I'm not tapped into it and I have to really invite it. And so this is kind of, like we're inviting you to, like, what is that those deeper truths? Mm-hmm. You had
That's
mentioned
a really good point.
You had mentioned a dream, a recurring dream, or that often when people pass away, there's a significant dreams help us process that. Would you want to share your version of that?
Yeah, because dealing with death and loss, and honestly, then you go on with your everyday life, and then yet you can have experiences that are really powerful by bringing that meaning in that person back in. Yeah, actually, I did mention this is a really intense dream I had. So one kind of dream, you mentioned daydreams, but another way to dream is called a lucid dream, and they're very rare. People, from what I can tell, you only have maybe a few of them in your life if you ever have them. And a lucid dream is the part of the dream that you're asleep, but you're starting to dream, but all of a sudden you become aware of yourself dreaming. You're aware, but yet you're still in the dream. And this has only happened to me one time in my life, and it was after my mom passed away. And I had been really wanting her to come to me in my dreams. I was just like, as I was missing her and really wanting, but you just can't dial that up as much as you think. And I was pretty young at the time. I guess I was around 30. And I ended up dropping into a dream finally. I was really wanting this connection with her. And I had this dream. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the dream, there was some long dinner table and this limousine. And when I got in, which is so funny because there's no limousine in my life, but there was some privilege of me being that's how I associated. The door opened and my mom was inside the limousine, and I came and I got in, and all of a sudden as I was dreaming with it, I had this awareness. I was sitting, oh my gosh, it makes me emotional. Mm-hmm. We really are uncensored today, but I was actually with her, and I was aware that I was with her, and it was so visceral. I could feel, see, hear. I was sitting there, and all of a sudden I was realizing this was a dream, and then I realized if I woke up, I would be leaving the moment, and I could feel myself starting to come out of the dream, and I could actually make myself stay. It wasn't too long. It was so powerful. And it was a very healing process to be able to be there and have that moment. I tried to call it back multiple times, never worked, but I felt so privileged to have had that. And then later when I studied about dreams myself, and I studied and I read about lucid dreams, I'm like, that's what it was. And so I feel grateful to have had it. But it's an interesting experience in the psyche to kind of be there, be in it, and then relive it. But what I've done with it since is gone with what experience I was having in that dream, what came to me, and what I was trying to work through. Mm-hmm. Very powerful.
That's beautiful. And notice in both things, it's here in the morning, we're just chatting, and these dreams touch so deeply.
Yes.
Which is why we really want to encourage you to, be kind to yourself related to looking at these. And also we haven't mentioned specifically trauma dreams.
Yeah, I think we should.
Right, which are a little different. Different and not. They're not to torture us. They're not meant to torture us, but they can be torturing. And I think that was, some of mine early in life, but that being able to get help and working with your dreams to resolve the guilt that you're feeling that you might replay over and over, or whatever that core moment is that does get repeated, that would be a good one to move into EMDR or to move into some sort of body work about like, what does this keep telling me? Help me understand what I need to know so that I can move back into a place of relationship and connection. And those are like, so yeah, if you have those moments, or, I can't find you, I can't find you, I can't find you, you can kind of like you're suggested to have dreams. I'm going to suggest that you find me, or whoever the person is that you're looking for in the dream. You're looking and you're looking and you're looking, and let yourself find them. Because again, like let's go back to attachment for just a second. Like that, I hope you're there. Where are you? Where are you? I'm crawling and I'm trying to find you and I'm trying to find you. Is that preoccupation, right? Mm-hmm. And so in the dream, if you're letting yourself find the person that you're looking for, it's kind of anticlimactic, right? Because it's like, yeah, like in other words, the person that we're looking for isn't the solution to the pain that we're in, the pain and distress we're in.
Right.
So
we believe it to be. We believe if we could just find that person, then I'd be safe.
That's right, but that's all that external. That's that preoccupation, red zone, and then this ties in. I think, Anne, you and I spoke about the internal working models and how the amygdala really does in attachment. So, for example, somebody that is preoccupied really does take in like a slight or something like that more deeply. They feel it more deeply. And so there's also evidence that this happens in dreams too. So that those kinds of dreams are going to be, if you tend towards, if you lean in the preoccupied direction, and if something's stirring you up and you're preoccupied, they're going to be those emotional, but since we know where we're going, which is that you already have this capacity inside of you, you're already okay. If you put your hand over your heart and your heart is beating, it means we're already here. We've already done it. We're already fine. And we get to be these messy humans in the world and not be perfect. So that the thing that you're looking for so desperately in the dream, it'd be great to have it, but you already are okay. That's kind of the message, I think.
And it adds to the idea of those themes in your dreams being a real avenue for you.
Yeah.
Because when you are in REM and having these dreams, your amygdala is more lit up. I mean, it's your amygdala and your hippocampus, they're in communication.
Limbic, yeah.
Yeah, you're totally limbic. And so the ability to kind of relive that and calm that, because one of the things you're saying is you're taking the threat out of that. The amygdala believes that that's a life-threatening experience because it's associated with...
Find the person. Yeah.
It's associated with your younger self. So when you're reliving it and telling it, but you're not just trying to relive this dream and go, okay, what am I looking for? So I have to go out there and find it. It's like, oh, you're turning that work internal. That obviously is our theme today, is that we're turning it really internal. And that power of association and working through that, I loved how you said, if you could see Sue, she was putting her hands on her chest. It's like, okay, I don't have to find this to know that I'm okay. Think about how you're communicating with your entire limbic system. That threat is not necessary in that place. It's just really, really important. And I think also we have to note, we've been talking a lot about dreams. We haven't talked about nightmares, but when you're talking about trauma dreams, it's really common for kids to have nightmares, but not as common for adults, right? It's a much lower percentage. But if you have PTSD, right, about 80%, I think, in research of PTSD sufferers have nightmares. And so there's a lot of work being done about what that nightmare represents, but it is really similar to that high activation in the daytime state at night, that the PTSD is being activated at night. And so I love that you went to the idea of you having that, really getting help and thinking about EMDR, thinking about ways to really deal with the trauma, not just to suppress the nightmare, but to be dealing with the trauma that's underneath.
Right, because I really do like thinking of, our body we can dissociate hard things, but our body is still processing them. It can't not. So these dreams are not meant to be, like I said, torture. They really are a signal of that there's something that isn't integrated. And so it's thinking of it as integration. And so it can be integrated. No matter how horrible it is, it can be integrated. And there is another side to it. So we really encourage you, if that's something that you're struggling with, to get help with it, and you're not doomed forever.
That's perfect. Well, one of the things, we mentioned at the beginning, there's a lot of ways to interpret dreams. There's no one way. We're giving you kind of how we process it. Also did an interview with two Jungian analysts who see dreams much more about your unconscious, and a collective unconscious that is not just your own personal history, your own personal psyche that you're working through, but it's the collective, the bigger sense of unconsciousness and collectiveness in the world that is being processed through your dreams and communicating to your dreams. And so tune in for that. That's going to come up after this one, to get a Jungian perspective on dreams. It's very powerful.
And then in the meantime, we want you to share, to tune in and share your dreams. You can share them with us. You can share them with safe people. Begin dream journals. Really, really do encourage that. And yeah, write in if you've had a particularly life event experience that came from a dream. Tell us about it.
Yeah, and if you do and you feel comfortable without your name, if you feel comfortable with Sue and I referencing that dream, just say that. To say, by the way, yeah, but you need to say that, because nothing that you're going to write we're going to actually talk about unless you say.
We're therapists.
We're therapists, yeah. But if you say, hey, this is a dream, this is how it worked, and this is really powerful, maybe at some point we would share that. So feel free to mention that.
That's right. Share with us, share with your close people.
Yes.
Because, we mentioned it, but the interpersonal part of the dream is it feels like we were both interpersonal with one another, but also with you, the listener, sharing a little bit more. And sometimes you reveal more than you mean to. So it's vulnerable.
That's true.
So the interpersonal part of dreaming is also something not to be overlooked. And it's a real opportunity to get closer to people. Okay.
All right.
We should let them go.
Thanks for tuning in. Hey, if this episode or any of our episodes really bring meaning to you and you feel you can share them with those that you care about, please do. But if they're bringing meaning to you and changing your life, you might also consider becoming a Patreon member or a Supercast member. And with just $5 a month, you could help Sue and I produce this show and really make a difference. So you would go to TherapistUncensored/join and sign up there.
That's right. And that allows us actually to be able to do a lot more. The corporate sponsors that we have keep this show free for everyone, but we're also then able to support mental health access for those who are traditionally left behind.